Good morning, Suncoast. You guys, are you awake this morning? Come on. Good morning, Suncoast. Come on. All right. I'm out of breath, and I'm hoping you guys are too. I'm working on that one. We have a concert coming up, and I'm very, very excited. And I want to make a loud point to say, if you get tickets in the cafe, it's going to be a lot cheaper than buying online, and that is, you don't have to pay the convenience fee, so that is convenient in itself. Take advantage of that. It's gonna be awesome. Tickets are starting to sell quick, and it's gonna be an amazing night. You guys don't wanna miss out. It's gonna be something that, I don't know, 4 awesome artists in one night. I mean, it's gonna be sweet. So, you guys ready to sing a couple more songs? Awesome, let's do it.
Somehow it feels like my home, walking this tightrope after your heart.
independent. Well, I left home to find my way. And there my feet had found a rhythm while worries seemed to fade. And oh, we battered boots and shallow roofs. Nothing held me still. Just scattered pursuits of myself without you is what I want, still part of your will. I lean into all my wants and wishes. I lean into my thoughts and wildest dreams, holding on to all my heart's desires in this reckless pursuit of me. And every single line, like casting shadows, seem to read these words I often think, holding my own breath till my heart expires. Is this the place I long to reach? In this reckless pursuit of me. Reckless pursuit of me. Oh, I lean. Oh, I lean. Oh, I you found this mess, you saw me here within it. The same road I walked is a road you run to welcome me home again. Maybe the space that I made was to measure your grace, still it stretched out beyond to every faded heart in the worlds they part. You shine away home again. As your tears fall and my fears fail, your love still stands to hold. And every doubt weighed against love's embrace, as the broken lean into hope. And as your love lives to carry on, this light will
Sing to the thoughts within your mind. There's no one like you, none beside you, Lord. With every breath I have, I will sing that you're beautiful and worthy
the valley. Let your love rise above every fear, like the sun shaping a shadow. In my weakness, your glory appears. Come on, lift this up, come on. I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here Sing this out together, not for a minute, not for a minute. Words are forsaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. And come, Holy Spirit, dry bones awaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Not for a minute, words are forsaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. And come, Holy Spirit, dry bones awaken. The Lord is in this place. The Lord is in this place. Let me hear you one more time. Come on. Thank you all so much for singing. You may be seated.
When I grew up, I was in part of a holiness tradition. You know, you get saved and then you get sanctified.
Yeah.
You know, so this is what God does for you. This is what God does in you.
Yep.
And it was all about, you know, God declares I'm no longer guilty, but this other part is Christ who lives in me. And part of what I think today is it is Christ that lives within us.
Yeah.
It's not about this courtroom mentality that we have to deal with. It's about this connection with the Logos, the Spirit of Christ within. I think it's just a better way to say it. I think it translates better.
Good morning. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Larry Baucom, the lead pastor / founder / old guy from Suncoast. But I'm glad to see you today. Some things I want to remind you of that are in your notes. We're starting a new series, but we're doing some things at Suncoast as far as travel. And I just wanted to mention those things to you. One is the Holy Land in January. We've added a second tour. The first tour was full, so we added one a week earlier. So we were going to go January 25th to February 3rd, and that group is full, but we open another one January 11th through January 25th. No, January 11th to the 20th. January 11th to the 20th. But if you want one of the brochures, pick it up in the back. If you want to go, that's something you might want to consider. Second thing is, someone says, well, I've already been to Israel. You got any other trips? Yes, we do. Becky and I are taking a trip to Europe this fall. And if you want to go on one like a Viking River trip, there's a Suncoast group on that too. And those are the two things. Now, let me tell you something that's more local. Next week, we're going to celebrate our newest ministry partner at Suncoast, and it's called 81 Oaks Senior Living Facility. And if you've been around here a long time, it's a facility that's really adjacent to us, to the west, property the church sold off. And there's a senior living facility of which I am the principal controller of. And it's this relationship between the church and seniors and the school that's going to make this thing a one-of-a-kind type thing. So here's what the scoop is. You ever been in your neighborhood or driving down the road and you see somebody building a new house? God, I want to see that. And before it's complete, sometimes you sneak in there, even unless there's a no trespassing sign. Then all of us obey the no trespassing signs if we see them. But now the no trespassing sign has been gone. Next Sunday, I've talked to the management group, and they're going to have the facility open for us to go through it before residents arrive. So from 10 o'clock Sunday morning until about 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon, after both the services, when you're done here next week after church, you can say, let's go check out the senior living facility. You drive down there, park in the front. There's going to be food in there. They're going to give you a behind-the-scenes tour. It's simply a way you can have a sneak peek into what's been going on for the last several years there. It is finished, and it should be completely ready to go by next Sunday. Sound good? So that's for you. So that's a gift, and you can snoop around and look in the rooms, pick out the one you want to live in. I have one in memory care. I can't remember where it is, but that's okay. But today we're launching a new teaching called Practical Prescriptions. And but before we do that, one more teaser. Didn't you enjoy last weekend? Well, it was a great weekend of celebration. Nearly 2,000 people here for the weekend to celebrate Easter, the greatest truth, the greatest Sunday in the life of church. And someone asked me how I'm doing today. I said, I'm doing great because it's Sunday. It is Sunday, and it's my favorite day of the week, and I'm glad to share with you some thoughts today from my heart. When I was a boy, we'd have birthday traditions. And I didn't realize there are 9 kids in my family. And the birthday traditions we had was, you think everybody's doing them. You find out, I look back and go, this is kind of strange. Maybe it's a deep South thing because it's in Nashville. We'd have a birthday plate. And you're the special person at the table, so that day you had a plate. And under the plate, they'd sometimes put money in it. Sometimes, for us, a big deal would be a quarter. That's how back long ago that was. But, you could buy a brand new car for $1. No, just making that up. Anyway. But your birthday plate. And the other tradition we'd have, and you probably know this one, is a birthday spanking. Remember birthday spanking? Oh, you get one swat on your bottom for every year you are. And your parents come through and they've been, you're 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's really gentle. Unless your younger brother or your older brother gets in and they want to give you what to go for, But when you're done, you're 6 years old, then they say, they'll give you one more, and they say what? One to grow on, exactly. If I were to title this teaching, I could title it One to Grow On. Because the 9 teachings, the practical prescriptions, every week there's something that you can grow on. It's just an extra boost in your life. And they're simple insights that will help you grow as a person. Our lives are to be lived not in a static environment, but in a dynamic way. In other words, our lives should always be looking for some practical prescription the way we can grow and become a little better at who we are. Today we're looking at number 1 for becoming more. These are designed to enhance your personal growth, and they open our heart to possibilities that somehow maybe we can change the world. Really, these practical prescriptions are 9 life lessons for us. Life lessons for those of us who want more. Life lessons for those of us who realize that something is missing. Life lessons for those who've wasted years chasing the wrong thing. It's not too late. So what's the first prescription? We're taking it from the story found in Matthew. It's a parable. But the theme of the day is dig it up. You'll find out why. Again, it'll be like a man going on a journey. He calls his servants together and entrusts his property to them. To the first guy, he calls up and said, look, I'm going to give you 5 talents. Let's say it's a measure of money. I'm going to give you $500,000 while I'm gone for you to take care of. I mean, he knew money was to be, used to create more. The second guy, he said, look, you come in, I'm going to give you $200,000. And the third guy comes in, he said, I'm going to give you $100,000. Now, years go by, and the man comes back. And when he comes back, what he discovers is, calls the first guy in, he says, what have you done? He said, look, you gave me $500,000, I've turned it into 5 more. So there's $1 million. He said, well done, good and faithful servant. The second guy brings him in, how's it going with you? He says, it's cool. He says, it's going real well. I took the $200,000 you gave me, I turned it into $400,000. Well done. Nicely done. That's cool. The third guy said, well, I gave you $100,000, what'd you do? He said, I know you're a tough business guy. I know you sow where you haven't reaped. You've scattered where you really haven't, you want to harvest where you've never scattered seed. He said, what I did, I took your $100,000 and I went and dug a hole in the ground and I buried it. And I hid it from everybody. I was so afraid that someone would steal it or I'd lose it that here it is, here's your $100,000 back. Now, it's interesting in the story. His master replied, this is a parable, you wicked, lazy servant, how dare you waste what I've given you? That's the zinger. What are you wasting? This focus could be the steward principle. There could be some stewardship principles here so that what you take, you use, and it grows. But it also has to do about your life, your abilities. The natural tendency is to play it safe. Let's don't put ourselves out there. Let's just draw the reinforcement. Let's dig a hole and save everything so we make sure we don't lose anything. To that, I'll lead you into a quote from Dr. Henry Cloud, psychologist, about what we should do with our talent. This is what he says. It's our job to dig up whatever potential we have and whatever situation we're in, and then invest it and see it grow. The choice is whether we're going to allow fear and experiences to keep our potential buried or choose to step out in faith and see the potential turned into reality. Leads me to point number 1 today. It's in your notes. You can fill in the blank if you'd like. Here's the first one. Fear keeps our potential buried. When we begin to open up who we are, what our dreams are, we become vulnerable. When we are put down, humiliated, when someone scoffs at an idea that we have, we become wounded, and we don't want to be wounded again. Listen carefully. Every reality begins in a dream. In every goal, in every relationship, we want to see our dreams realized. When our dreams have been buried, when our talents have been hidden, when we've done everything we can to save everything. Here's what I want to suggest. Find a time in your life to pull back and dig it up. What does that mean? Don't waste your life with all the talent and joy and gifts that you've been given. We need to let our dreams germinate and our passions come alive. So there's a story of 2 girls. Susie was an artistic child who liked to stack blocks and later began to draw and sketch things. Her parents encouraged her. They affirmed her to build on these strengths. She excelled in school and in college and studied to become an architect, designing large buildings. Jenny had the same gifts, but she was not encouraged from home. Her dad would often say, put the blocks up and clean up the mess. She was continually put down by her father, who thought it was nonsense and threw her sketches away. Jenny was more interested in the affirmation from her friends than her parents, which she got none. She particularly liked the affirmation of her boyfriend. She dropped out of school. She got married and was soon divorced. She had to get a minimal job in an office to make ends meet. Susie becomes an architect. Jenny drops out of school. But the encouragement, the story didn't end there, and the encouragement of Jenny's friends, she began to realize that she had more to offer, and she began to dig it up. What? Those dreams as a child.
the drawings that she had, the building blocks of her life. And she went back to school, and she began to succeed and ended up in the same architect's firm as Susie. Now, it's a good story for Jenny, but can you see the difficulty that one had to go through? And you say, well, my life has not been easy. I didn't get everywhere that I wanted as easy as I could. Okay, I understand. Maybe you have to go back and you have to dig it up. Maybe there's some things in your life, some talents and ambitions you have. I want you to consider them being given to God and let them be actualized. So what do we dig up? Passions, dreams. Why? Because God wants our best for our lives. That's his best. He is the master that's gifted us, and I want us to discover that gift. So let me get personal. In my personal life, I always wanted to be a pastor. From the time I was 9 years old, I saw a guy preaching up here, and even though he was one of these scathing preachers who would tell you you're going to go to hell, and I was scared a lot during his preaching, but someday I thought, well, heck, someday I want to be up there scaring the hell out of everybody. And when I get up every week, you probably feel that same way. What is he going to say this week? But after that, I grew up in that environment. I went to college. The church I grew up in, at least believe in education. I went to college and got a degree in pastoral ministry. It was double major business. 1/4 of accounting, or I'd have been a double major, but business minor. And after going through that I was 21 years old when I graduated from college. I was going to be a pastor at 21. Do you know how many people want a 21-year-old pastor? No one. I mean, I was so young and so naive. I remember thinking even when I was 25 and pastoring, I thought, I'd like just a little gray hair right here. Now I don't think that at all. I'm just grateful today that I have hair. So, but 4 years of college, 4 years in graduate school, 3.5 plus an extra 6 months. And then 6 years out, I went back to school because school is easier for me than the average person, I guess. And I went back to Florida State and received, after just 7 short years of hell, I received a PhD. I pastored for 16 years in a denomination. You know what I found out after 16 years in a denomination? I found out I really don't like pastoring. Now, what do you do when you go over here? 4 years of college, 4 years of grad school, 7 years of PhD, and you finally get to be the highest level, you realize, this sucks, I don't want to do it anymore. What do? Let me tell you what you do. You become a mobile home salesman. I was the only PhD mobile home salesman in the state of Florida. I mean, people come in, they want to know Greek, Hebrew, German. Not really. But what was I really? You know what I was really frustrated with? I was burned out with board meetings that happened every month where 10 people were on my board telling me what the future of the church should be, and I don't think they really even knew what pastoring was all about. I was tired with committees. I call it death by meeting. We met and we met and we met. All the energy was sucked into meetings. So one day when I resigned and moved from Sarasota to Tallahassee, and in that mobile home industry, I was trying to find my way. I was wounded, didn't even know how to get better. What I knew is I don't want to ever go back into that hole again. But after several months, I began to realize it wasn't the hole back there that was a problem, it was a hole in here that was a problem. And I sort of felt like something was missing. Today is April 16th, but on April 12th, just 4 days ago, was the anniversary, 25 years ago, I had an experience with God in my life that changed me forever. My heart was open that afternoon. I felt the presence of God, and this is where it gets in. Things in my life began to be dug up. And I began to realize that God had a lot of gifts that he'd given me and a lot of things I was impassioned about before, and I lost them. What were they? My passion really was for ministry, loving people. I love to preach and teach from the Bible. I love to set people free from a bondage of guilt. I love to show them there's a new way to be a Christian. It doesn't have all the baggage of the old way. I mean, I dug it up, I gave it to God. But you know, I will tell you, when you dig something up like that, it's not always pretty. Because when you dig it up, there comes up some other things. There's some resentment, some anger, some frustration, but we still need to dig it up, and then we need to sort it out and find out what is worthy of keeping us, what worthy of getting rid of. What I discovered that day and since that it's possible to pastor with all the good things, without all the negative things. But where is that church? They don't exist. So what do? Start your own. So Suncoast began, and here's the major owner of the Suncoast, it's God. God owns this place, God runs this place. And you say, well, what are you? I get to be his servant. I get to be the head chief honcho in God's order, in his hierarchy. But what's the passion? God began to dig up in me this love for people, this love for pastoring, this love that I'd lost. The greatest work within me that I had to keep digging up, you know, one of the things I dug up is I had a tendency to blame people. It's easy to blame your denomination for all your issues. It's easy to blame anyone. I mean, heaven's sake, the reason I got married so I'd have someone to blame. And I blame Becky for everything. Early on, she started saying, have you noticed that you're blaming me for this? I go, yeah, I like it. I mean, and then it got to be a joke. I spilled coffee. Now she'd say, now how am I responsible for that? Well, give me a minute. You got to do some clever gymnastics to get there, but you can do it if you try hard enough. But when you blame someone for everything that goes on in your life, you'll never correct. You'll never self-correct if it's someone else's fault. So when I say it's my fault, I'm responsible, then all of a sudden I begin to correct my behavior and my thinking. See, I want you to hear me very clearly. I'm not the man I used to be. With God's help, I found a passion. I found the fire that he put within me. I want to make sure I always burn brightly for God. I no longer have the hole in my heart. God's filled me with his love. Can I share a suggestion with you? Dig it up. And when you do, whatever it is, give it to God. Say, well, Pastor, I'm not a pastor. What does that mean? Are you a mom? Are you a dad? Do you own a company, a business? Are you an employee? Do you go to school? Whatever it is, usually it's your best self. You dig it up and let it shine. And when you give it to God, all of a sudden life can shift around. I read an article recently I thought just fits in very well. And this is what it says. Don't expect much from a drowning man. If you're hungry, he's not going to offer you a candy bar or ask you how your day was going because he's drowning. If you expect something from someone who's drowning, you're probably going to be very disappointed. Well, why won't this drowning person be generous with me? Because generosity takes effort. It requires the space to take your mind off your own problems long enough to see someone else's. It requires the confidence to share a big part of you. But you can't share it when you're drowning. You ever seen someone who can't swim very well? Maybe you can't swim. Maybe you're one of the few in here that can't swim. Florida, a lot of people can swim. Little kids can swim. But when they get in there and they're just really struggling to keep their head up, you can't say, hey, can you pass me that ball over there in the pool? Or hey, can you? No, dude, I'm just barely surviving. And so many times we go to people who are barely surviving and we expect great things from them. My job is not to exploit you who are drowning to give me something. My job is to come alongside you and teach you how to swim a little better. Maybe I'm going to give you a life vest. Maybe I'm going to say, you get the heck out of the pool. You don't belong. Or maybe just sit on the side. Or maybe bring in the shallower water where you can stand. I said, just stand here and that look like you're swimming. I mean, sometimes that's the best thing we can do. But we want more out of people when they can't give it. If I could give you this suggestion to help people around you today, the one thing that I think would help people who are drowning. If you were drowning, what can I do to keep from drowning? What can I do to get my feet back on solid ground? Help others. When you begin to help others, all of a sudden you have to have your feet down. You'll find a place where you're standing on solid ground if you want to help someone else. How's your confidence? Can you dig it up? This weekend, great weekend. I don't know, I think I saw most of you at the Taylor Swift concert, right? No, my daughter and granddaughter got to go to Taylor Swift. I was ecstatic about them going. You know the thing that was even more ecstatic about them going was me not going.
But you go there and you hear this wonderful vocalist, and I know a lot of people love Taylor Swift, and that's fine. But the people who like musicians, and I have them in my family, I love them. But American Idol, remember American Idol? Ooh, American Idol. My daughters, we're all talking about American Idol, all the people singing. And I think interesting, it all comes down to one person wins. Everyone else loses, one wins. 10,000 may lose, only one win. I love the mentality where 10,000 win. How can we help everyone? Well, we have to let them dig it up. And with the help of God, we begin to understand that if I try to compare myself to the 10,000 others that are trying for American Idol, I'm in trouble. When I compare myself to others, when I say this like this parable, I got 5 talents. How many did you get? Oh, you only got 1. Sorry about that. I got 5, you got 1. Oh, I got 5, you got 2. See, there's a little bit of pride that creeps in there. Then all of a sudden I come by, I got 1. How many did you get? You got 5? Envy, jealousy, competition. Today, there's a principle of life I want to teach you, is that growing lives, successful lives, encourage others. People who are winners have dug it up, and they want others to dig it up. We become winners, not whiners, because we face our fears. When we dig it up with God's help, we can begin to see again and dream again. I want you to hear very clearly, dreams are not just for the young. You and I at any age can dream. Dig it up, give it to God. Number 2, the visible begins in the invisible. Great accomplishments always begin in a dream or a vision. Paul describes it this way in 2 Corinthians. He says, so we fix our eyes not on what we can't see, but what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. The invisible, our thoughts, give rise to the visible outcomes. Every one of us has a unique set of gifts and abilities, and you need to use those. Some of us have been damaged, and those gifts and abilities have been hidden. Others have been preoccupied with an agenda that minimizes those gifts. But I would say to you, that which is inside you, as it's lived out, becomes the greatness. I have the joy of being a part of this Suncoast since the beginning, almost 25 years. And at Christmas time, we have this building that's built, and we have multiple services here. This year, I think it was 3, but we've had 4 before. And no matter how many we have at Christmas, it's full. Every service is about full. And we go into the grand hall. When we built this building, I remember having a conversation with the architect, who's a good friend of mine. He said, Larry, I've never built a church, and I built a lot of them, that had such a big grand hall like you have. Usually we put a foyer in there. It's a lot of money to build this kind of hall. And I said, I know, but I want it. And you know what's the amazing thing is, he did it. So that you go outside, and there's this grand hall. It's as long as a football field. It's actually 300 feet long from this end to this end, about 30 to 36 feet wide, depends on where you are in the building. But you go out there, and it can hold a lot more people. If you have a big square box with a little foyer, people feel pressure to get out. Here you go out, you kind of spill over, and you can talk, and it builds community, which I like. So one Christmas Eve, somebody came to me and said, wow, I mean, there's hundreds of people out here in the grand hall. Did you ever in your wildest imagination dream that there'd be this many people in the grand hall? I go, you're asking the wrong person. Yes. I mean, it's not about braggadocious, but we dream big dreams. And when it finally hits, you can't say, I just never saw this coming. We build for it. We expect it. We anticipate it happening. That's what we want. When you have children, do they just really show up out of the blue? No, sometimes they're planned. Now, my family, I don't know, we had 9. Maybe they did just show up out of the blue. But there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of joy in that. But when families happen, and even when children come, there's a plan for the family. You get creative about it. And it's part of life. It's part of your dream for them, but it always starts on the inside, which leads to the last part. And this I firmly believe, authentic life begins within. If you want to sum up the message of Jesus, that's it. The kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven is in you. It's at hand. It's not lived from the outside in, it's lived from the inside out. We have a heart full of treasure. We're given that, talents, feelings, desires, and we need to cultivate that inner life. We need to realize our dreams, reach for the stars. Remember the movement called The Secret? Anybody heard of The Secret? I'm just curious. Yeah, you've heard of it. What is it? It's the law of attraction, summed up. Someone gave it to me years ago and says, well, what is it? It's this law of attraction in a natural law that is part of the universe, that like attracts like. If you are a positive person, you send out positive vibes are going to come back to you. And if you're a person that sends out negative vibes are going to come back to you. If you're angry all the time, you send out a lot of anger, you're going to get anger. If you're peace-loving and joyful and you send out love, joy, peace to people, it comes back to you. The Secret claims that desirable outcomes such as better health, better wealth, and happiness can be achieved or attracted simply by changing our thoughts and feelings. And here's what I want, hear me very clearly. Some of what they claim is absolutely, I think, true. Which leads me to another story. Do you like fish? Just curious. You live in Florida. If you like fish, raise your hand. Some kind of fish. Anyway, anybody ever had a bone in a fish? You had a bone in a fish, raise your hand. Oh, yeah. Now I'm talking to people who really know this. You know, if you have a bone in the fish, you normally don't swallow it, right? When I was a kid, they'd say, oh, you're going to get that stuck in your throat. And once that happens, you know, forever, you just have a fish bone in your throat, I guess. But if you eat fish, even a fillet, you have to be careful not to eat the bones. In many things, including The Secret and Christianity, there's lots of truths, but they're mixed with bones. There's fish, but you have to be careful of the bones. My role as your pastor, it's our role as your staff, is to help you keep from choking on the bones. Sometimes it sounds good and you just swallow it. I've been to places where I've asked my wife, she said, boy, that was really good. I go, no, that's pretty bony. Say, was that good fish? The fish was good, but there's just a lot of bones in there. Where's the bone? Here's the bone. Here's the bone. This will make you choke down the road. It's fine now, but later on when you have a crisis in your life, this is going to you'll turn your back on God if you believe this. If this is what you really think. Our role is to help you keep from choking on the bones, to distinguish the meat from the bones. Good theology, good teaching leads to healthy, faithful living, not just today, but for your lifetime. What our church needs today, the church in America, around the globe needs, is a more consistent, good, reasonable teaching about the life of Jesus and applying it to the contemporary setting. When we focus on the teachings of Jesus, we find the possibility of wholeness, the opportunity of grace, and we can find the joy of life. So I want to ask you a couple of questions as I finish this. When was the last time you dug it up? When's the last time you brought up some anger, resentment, and you had to let it go? When's the time you brought up the fact, hey, I really do love people and I need to be more involved? When's the last time you said, I'm really good with children or with adults, I need to be involved? What about passion and purpose? Let it begin to become more than we are. As we follow Jesus, let's let go of our fear. Let's begin to see, to dream, to become more. With that, I'll close with a practical prescription. You have those in your hands, but you can see it on the screen. Here's the prescription for today from Dr. Baucom, next week from Dr. Troy. Here's what we'd love to say. Rediscover your talents and passions. That's the first thing. Secondly, give them to God. And lastly, let them live. Rediscover your talents and passions. Give them to God. Let them live. Let's pray. Father, as we just rediscover our passions, maybe we buried them because someone hurt us. Maybe we buried them because life didn't go the way we thought it should. Maybe we buried them because we're afraid. In a moment just like this, it's my prayer for my friends, my community, is that the Spirit of God would be so alive in their life that as they start to dig in, that what would erupt would be the joy of life and the joy of living and the presence of God. Father, work in our lives as only you can, and as you do, we'll pause, say thank you, God, for every day as a gift. Thank you for life itself, we pray. Amen. Would you stand, please? I'm going to tell you a story in closing. It's an old story from E. Stanley Jones, the old ancient missionary, but he tells a story about another missionary who got lost in the African jungle. Nothing around him but bush and a few cleared spaces. And he wandered and wandered, being lost, and he finally found a native in a hut. And he asked the native if he could get him out, and the native said, yes, I can. He had machetes, and they started walking, and he said, all right, the missionary said, show me the way. And he said, walk. So they walked, and they hacked, and they walked, and they hacked, and they walked, and they hacked through unmarked jungle for several hours. Finally, the missionary got a little skeptical. He got a little worried. So he asked this African, are you sure this is the way? Where is the path? And the native said, Bwana, in this place, there is no path. I am the path. Jesus said, do you want to find the path? I am the way, the truth, and the life. And I'm just here to remind you, he loves you, and so do I. God bless. Thanks for coming today.